Video number 10 in Outgrowing, Outworn Worldviews. Let's talk this time a little bit about values and goals and faith. So every ethical system, every worldview, even mythologies have values embedded in them. And so, as I said in a previous video about ethics, so about values, I don't like all the hair-splitting, abstract, principle-driven distinctions about values. I want something more practical. I want something that's been worked out, that appears in many different cultures as far as values go. So a key one I mentioned previously usually goes by the name of the Golden Rule, goes by other names too, but basically treating people the way you want to be treated. There's a concept in Chinese philosophy called Ren, and it was something that Confucius resurrected. Ren in the past meant the kindness that nobility show toward peasants. And Confucius came along and said, no, this is basic to our humanity. And so the philosophers after him also had a lot to say about Ren. And it's been translated as benevolence, but that's not quite right. It's more like the act of lived humaneness, being humane with each other. That to me seems core. That's a core part of my worldview, that we should be humane. That's a key value for me. Also, the idea of diversity and wholeness or unity going together because they belong together. And that, as philosophers would say, is ontological. That's built into reality. Where you find diversity, you find some kind of unity and vice versa. So that has to be absolutely core as well. Things that we should value consciously. Also, there's something that's not talked about enough in our culture and in this country, the US, which is the value not only of wisdom, but of psychological maturity. Look at the people who are our leaders, especially our political leaders. How old do you think they are on the inside? Maybe 6, if that? Some of them have 2-year-old temper tantrums. So how different the world would look if we valued wisdom and maturity and made sure, as some cultures do, and I'm thinking of indigenous cultures in particular of various kinds, to make sure that immature people never get into positions of power because they're so destructive. So valuing maturity and wisdom, also obviously integrity, that's one that comes up all over the world. These are all values that I think belong in any kind of an adequate worldview, philosophy, mythology, set of guiding stories. So I could mention others too. One that I think about in terms of this country, the USA, what would it look like if white people didn't think of ourselves as the center of everything, the center of the country, but instead the vision of how things could be here, of the kind of country we all would really like to live in and feel secure in and be a part of. What if that were in the center? Hence the importance of visions. And I spoke in previous videos about imagination. We can't get there if we can't imagine it. We need a new story for how to be in this country. Incidentally, there's a blog I wrote up called Let's Repair the Liberty Bell, for those of you who are interested in this, and there's a part of it that is a declaration of interdependence. Food for thought. So values drive goals, and goals pull from the future instead of pushing from the past. And in terms of faith, so I'm using that in a non-religious sense, and I mean faith in soul, and I'm using that descriptively as the essence of who we are, the felt essence of who we are. Faith in vision and dream, in our ability to really learn how to dream together, to create better possible futures. Lincoln talked about accessing the better angels of our nature, as he put it. And one thing I want to emphasize too in this video is, and I've said this before, the basic Machiavellian stance toward humanity, or dictator stance, or psychopath stance, is that everybody's selfish and everybody needs to be watched and everybody needs to be controlled. In other words, there's a basic lack of faith in human nature. So let's replace that with faith in human nature, faith that realizes Yes, we're shadowy. Yes, we do terrible things. We all have the potential for that. But what about our higher selves? What about our higher natures? What about the great things that we do? What about what we aspire to? And it doesn't always get in the news. The news tends to favor bad news, but the little kindnesses, the little pieces of wisdom that you see every day, the teacher who made a difference in your life. I could list a whole bunch who made a difference in my life. People who made me feel seen, who made me feel like a real human being, like I belong somewhere. So that part of human nature, faith in human nature, that in addition to a lower nature, we have a higher one too. That, I think, should be a central part of any workable worldview.